Hello, this is Dr. Catherine Soul, and I'm here today to talk to you about creating inclusive programs and work environments for individuals who identify as members of LGBTQ plus communities. This unit was developed for cooperative extension personnel and volunteers. In cooperative extension, we are all aware that our programs need to be inclusive for clientele of all demographics, and that our cooperative extension programs are required to meet affirmative action, Title IX, and non-discrimination requirements in both our employment practices as well as our program offerings. These requirements protect individuals of all sexes and sexual orientations. To meet these requirements, it is important for us to have the language and knowledge necessary to ensure that our programs are positive and supportive environments that provide physical, mental, and emotional safety for individuals who identify as members of LGBTQ plus communities. This 6-lesson unit educates participants about creating inclusive cooperative extension programs and spaces where all individuals, including individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, can work and or learn together to address local, regional, and national needs. Through the 6 video trainings, this unit will help participants 1. Explore positive and negative uses of language as it relates to LGBTQ+ communities. 2. Understand findings from research with individuals in LGBTQ communities. 3. Explain the differences between sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. 4. Learn practical steps to create inclusive spaces for individuals who identify as members of LGBTQ+ communities. 5. Understand why creating inclusive programs and spaces is particularly important in the 4-H Youth Development Program. And 6. Learn best practices for supporting inclusion in the 4-H Youth Development Program. In this first lesson of unit, The Power of Language, we are going to explore positive and negative uses of language as it relates to LGBTQ+ communities. This lesson is designed to be interactive, and you'll have the best knowledge gained if you fully participate. So before we continue, please make sure that you have a couple pieces of paper and a pen on hand. Let's get started with a quick check-in about language. What does LGBTQ stand for anyhow? Well, there's no one right answer. I usually like to share these letters at the beginning of a training. Do you know what any of these letters refer to? Take a few seconds to write down the words that you know that the letters refer to, and then we'll review them together. Okay, great, let's get started. The first letter is L, and L refers to lesbian, and a lesbian is a woman who is attracted to other women. G. G refers to gay and means a man who is attracted to men. B. B refers to bisexual and means a person who is attracted to people of 2 genders. Most often we think of someone who's attracted to men and women. T refers to transgender, and a person who is transgender is someone who identifies with a gender other than the gender they were assigned at birth. The first Q stands for questioning and refers to a person who's exploring their own sexual orientation, gender expression, beliefs, and or values. The second Q stands for queer. Now, queer is a reclaimed word. In the past, the word was used as a hateful insult against people who were part of the LGBTQ+ community. More recently, the term has been reclaimed and is used by some members of the LGBTQ+ community as a term of defiant pride, or to express that someone identifies in ways that are outside of the gender binary or heteronormativity. Additionally, the term can be used to refer to the entire LGBTQ+ community. At the same time, the word still offends some people and should not be used if someone finds the word hateful. I stands for intersex, and someone who is intersex is a person who is born with a combination of hormones, chromosomes, gonads, internal sex organs, and or genitals that differ from societal ideals of what it means to be a female or male. In the past, you may have heard a term like hermaphrodite. However, that term is considered derogatory and is no longer used. We use the term intersex. The first A stands for asexual, and someone who is asexual is a person who does not experience sexual attraction or experiences very little sexual attraction. The second A refers to agender, and someone who is agender is a person who does not identify with societal ideals of what it means to be a man or a woman. Someone who is agender might also identify as gender neutral or genderless. And the P stands for pansexual, referring to a person who's attracted to others regardless of their sex, gender identity, gender expression, or their sexual orientation. Now that we've reviewed the meaning of LGBTQ+, I'd like to share a couple caveats here before we go on. First, this is not an exhaustive list or even exhaustive definitions of the communities represented in the list. With the advent of social media and the internet, and particularly in youth communities, terms change and take on localized meanings, so it's important to know and keep an open mind, because something that you hear on this presentation today may be different in your community or may be different in a month or two from now. Second, we always want to let individuals share their self-identities with us. It's never okay to label someone else or to use a label that someone does not identify with to describe them. Why are words like labels so important? Well, as humans, we use language to explain and interpret the world around us. In many ways, language also shapes the world around us. Let's explore this a little bit. On your paper, make 2 columns like this. Label 1 column girls and 1 column boys. Now I'd like you to think about what children learn about what it means to be a girl or what it means to be a boy when they are growing up. What do commercials teach them? What do their teachers teach them? How about cartoon characters, their friends, their families? In just a second, I'm going to ask you to list out some adjectives that describe what it means to be a girl in the girl column and what it means to be a boy in the boy column. But I'd like you to remember this is not about what you personally believe, but rather about what kids are learning by the world around them. Here's an example. Girls are sweet and boys are good at sports. So go ahead now and add 3 adjectives to each of your columns. Go ahead and look at your lists and see what you notice. When I do these trainings in person, participants often end up with lists that describe girls as doing things like enjoying playing with dolls, wearing makeup, looking pretty, being good at cooking and cleaning, preferring the colors pink and purple, and acting obedient. While the lists that describe the boys go something like very good at science and math, preferring to wear blue, being strong, enjoying the outdoors, good at being in charge. So the social messages and language that children are learning as they're growing up are teaching them about how to be a girl or how to be a boy and what society values about girls and boys. If I ask participants in trainings to share what society teaches us about what it means to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or intersex, the lists are generally full of words with negative connotations. Words like weak, ugly, confused, and immoral. Words like these. Clearly, the language that people learn about what it means to identify as LGBTQ+ is imbued with social stigma. For individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, social stigma can have negative psychological impacts. Frequently, Social stigma and hurtful language causes increased stress and anxiety, an ongoing sense of threat to one's psychological and physical well-being, increased depression, and for individuals who internalize social messaging that they hear, they often experience self-loathing, a sense of isolation, and a sense of despair. These impacts can help us understand why individuals who identify as LGBTQ+ are significantly more likely to feel unsafe, drop out of school, be homeless, turn to alcohol and or other drug substances, and attempt suicide. We've all heard the rhyme, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." This belief is why it's easy to look the other way when we hear people making fun of others or using offensive language. Yet, words do truly impact people's psychological and physical well-being. Understanding the impacts of language increases our ability to create inclusive programs and spaces in cooperative extension. We will explore ways to create inclusivity in future trainings. In the next training, entitled Lesson Number 2, Gender Doesn't Equal Sex, we'll explore language a little further as we learn the differences between sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. See you then.